Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the Legislative Wrap-Up Membership Luncheon sponsored by Energy Northwest. I'm Lori Mattson. I'm President and CEO of the Tri-City Regional Chamber. Today, we're really pleased. We're going to hear from 4 of our local state legislators. From the 8th Legislative District, Representative Stephanie Barnard. From the 9th Legislative District, Senator Mark Schoesler. From the 15th District, Senator Nikki Torres, and the 16th District, Senator Perry Dozier. Our guest legislators will provide updates and changes that took place in the 2024 legislative session and how those changes will impact our future of our region. We're really grateful for their time, and I personally look forward to their presentations. This last session was short, but there was no shortage of action in Olympia. I know many of us were there in late February. There were over 3,000 bills introduced and over 1,000 completed. So you all worked really hard this last session. Our legislators that are speaking worked with their district mates to determine who would present and represent their district today. So they're not all with us, but we wanted to make sure that you saw pictured here all 12 of our legislators that represent our region. While we're not hearing from all 12, these are our elected officials. So it's now my pleasure to introduce Amy Bachet. She's the chair of the Chamber's Board of Directors, and she's going to lead us through the rest of our program. Please help me welcome Amy.
All right, thank you. So I get the honor of being able to introduce our speakers today. So we're going to get to our first guest speaker, Representative Stephanie Barnard of the mighty 8th Legislative District, which includes portions of Benton and Franklin counties. Stephanie was elected to the Washington State House of Representatives in 2022. Her legislative priorities are laser focused on improving her region's economy, strengthening businesses, and creating more family wage jobs. She serves on numerous committees and caucuses, including the Innovation, Community, and Economic Development and Veterans Committee, the Finance Committee, and the Environment and Energy Committee. She is also the founder and co-chair of the Legislative Nuclear Energy Caucus and a founding member of the Public Safety Caucus. She's a business and economic development advocate, and as such, Stephanie served as the head of government affairs for the Tri-Cities Regional Chamber of Commerce for more than 4 years. An active community volunteer, Stephanie previously served on the board of directors for the local Boy Scouts of America and founded and operated a nonprofit organization that provided car seats and training to low-income parents. Born and raised in Washington, Stephanie lives in Pasco and has 6 children. So please help me welcome Representative Stephanie Barnard.
Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction, and it feels so good to be home. I'm really grateful to Lori and to the team at the Tri-City Regional Chamber. Your success as the voice of business in promoting growth and regional prosperity are proven time and time again with events such as this. I am honored to be here and speaking on behalf of the mighty 8th. It's led by Senator Matt Binkie and Representative April Connors and myself, which now includes, because of the changes, most of Kennewick, West Pasco, South Richland, Red Mountain, and South Prosser. So it's been elongated, and there's a big change there. The new district boundaries are currently tied up in litigation in state and federal court. But we, the mighty 8th, along with other local district leaders, are a team committed to serving you, the Columbia Basin region, and the entire state. So I wanted to show you the district boundary changes, and if you can see that, I don't know if you can see the boundaries, but it has changed quite a bit. We lost most of Richland, and we gained most of Kennewick all the way past the Horse Heaven Hills to the south. And it goes all the way out south of the Horse Heaven Hills, all the way out to Prosser. There is a part of West Richland in there as well. The new district maps were redrawn and imposed by U.S. District Court Judge Lasnik in the Federal Voters' Rights Act case. The redrawn districts ousted 5 elected legislators, all Republican, including our very own Nikki Torres. while we wait on the courts, the only place that we see changes, or that you can find these changes even, and I looked at the state level to see if I could find the changes or a new map. Doesn't exist and won't be there until January 1st when the new maps go into effect. I did find it, however, at davesredistricting.com. So if you're interested in looking that up, some random guy named Dave has figured out the redistricting and has mapped it out for us. So if you're interested in finding those redrawn maps, you can find them there. All right, so as far as a session review, I was trying to think of what, I don't think legislative successes and legislative failures are really the right words, but legislative success in our current political climate sometimes looks like killing a bad bill, or making a bad bill less bad, or maybe it's an amendment that hangs, or floor speech that sheds light on an unintended consequence, or it's getting a hearing on a bill that you thought was dead, or gaining an unexpected ally. Just know that in the time frame that I've been given, there are many successes and also failures that I'm not going to share. So I wanted to really focus on what success actually looks like in Olympia. And the first thing that came to mind was community engagement. This session, officials from the Tri-Cities, all the cities, the counties, the Tri-Cities Legislative Council, which includes the Tri-Cities Regional Chamber, the Hispanic Chamber, the Pasco Chamber, the West Richland Chamber. It also includes TriDec, Visit Tri-Cities. We also have WSU Tri-Cities that was in attendance during session. We had visitors from CBC, local students that came and visited us from higher ed and K-12. We had our local superintendents that came to visit us, home builders, the nurses, we had midwives, PUDs, ports, local unions. We had Energy Northwest, Battelle, Bechtel, Benton Franklin Council of Governments, and Hanford, and many, many others, and many business owners from around the Tri-Cities. Working cooperatively and speaking with one voice on issues critical to our local economy is a driving factor in our overall success in the mighty eighth. And I think, April, you can attest to that as well. So grateful for their partnership and all the work that they've done to create the priorities and bring those to the attention of those that we work with in Olympia. Another thing that success looks like is collaboration. One of the things that is extremely successful is working collaboratively. I can remember when Rep. Connors and Senator Binky and myself sat down together and we were discussing what committees we should sit on. We really wanted to cut a wide swath along a lot of topics and really represent the district in the best possible way we could that would highlight our strengths in each area. Committee and leadership positions, those come and go, but when you collaborate and really make a decision on what your shared priorities are for the district, that's when things start to happen. We work really hard to get to work on bipartisanship. So a lot of our efforts, we try to get bills that are signed or co-sponsored, or that we work directly with members of the opposition party. We also work on our bicameral efforts to work not only in the House chamber, but in the Senate chamber as well, so that our efforts go further and we can make much more progress if we start collaboratively with, with the bicameral and bipartisan work efforts. The other thing that's really important is our collaboration with stakeholders. So you know who you are. Everyone, or most of you in this room, has collaborated with a legislator at one level or another. There's an issue that's important to you or your business, and you've wanted to reach out. Maybe you've made a phone call, maybe you've sent an email, you maybe even have shared your testimony during a hearing. I can't tell you the difference that makes when you're in Olympia and you're working on a bill and trying to get something accomplished that's really meaningful for the district, and you have a group of people that are collaborating with you to try to help you get those goals accomplished. So a huge thank you to all of our stakeholders that are here today that have helped us in one way or another on hearings or even just sharing your pro and con or sharing your comments and turning those in. That is, we do read those and they do make a difference. So thank you so much. That's what success looks like in the legislature. So some other successes that we've had, one of them being our successes with the capital budget and what we've been able to achieve for the 8th Legislative District. This budget is a success in and of itself. It was a bipartisan effort. It was unanimously approved. We really were working on projects all around the 8th District to try to provide some funding for those tangible assets, buildings, schools, those kind of issues. And we brought home $49 million for the 8th District projects. So I wanted to go through those just a little bit. The first project is the Emergency Communications Radio Microwave. We brought home $235,000 for Brent and Franklin County and the region's cities that partnered to replace aged radio equipment, which is past end of life and will ensure radio communications for police, fire, EMS, and public works agencies in Benton and Franklin counties for the next 20 years. I know that's, all of you that know that issue know that is just a drop in the bucket for what we actually need. But give us time. We'll hopefully get some more. We also were successful in procuring $174,000 for the Children's Developmental Center, which is an agency that's close to my heart that helps developmentally disabled children. This facility, which when I went to tour it, it actually was leaking into some of the classrooms in a storage room. Their roof is 25 years old, and they were having some major issues. So this will provide a new roof as well as something else, but thermostats, that's what it was, thermostats. So an aging roof and some new thermostats. We also were able to procure $3 million for the Hapo Community Center. The Hapo Center is one of the largest event centers in the state, but for years, only half of its 84,000 square feet has been suitable for events year-round. These funds will provide HVAC on one side of the facility, which is more than 40,000 square feet, allowing the entire facility to be leveraged year-round as an economic catalyst through new events and through programming. So the Port of Benton is working on an inland port. I'm really excited about this project. We were able to obtain $240,000. Again, Diane, I apologize, that's not nearly enough. You're looking at about $6 to $7 million, I know, but this is a start. Creating an inland port in Richland would give Eastern Washington companies experience growth and demand for their domestic and global products, another option to get their goods to market. Really critical for us. The TriTech Skills Center, what a huge win. And we have to thank Senator Schoesler a great deal for this procurement. This project will directly improve students' access to the Skills Center programs by providing modern instructional facilities and meet safety and energy codes for the 41-year-old space. This is exciting because the project will allow the modernization in demand which includes welding technology, automotive and diesel technologies, computing science, dental assisting, pre-nursing, and expanding programs such as heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration, and medical assisting, as well as pre-pharmacy technician training. So really excited about what's going to be happening over at TriTech. I will let the others talk about what's happening in their districts, but I just want to make a quick mention of the Agricultural Symbiosis Industrial Park in Pasco, the Columbia Valley Center for Recovery, and funding for Energy Northwest SMR project. I took a quote from Matt here, and I'll just share it with you. I thought it was perfect. This was truly a team effort. I'm thrilled about the capital budget's positive impact on our district. These funds will enhance residents' quality of life and contribute to our region's long-term prosperity. I'm grateful for the opportunity to advocate for these projects and deliver results to those we represent. And those words echo my feelings exactly. So one thing that I wanted to share, and this, I've got a big poster of this on my wall in Olympia in my office. It's the operating budget. And this is an old picture. This doesn't accurately portray this biennium's budget, but it's close. And one of the things that you can see is obviously a huge part of our budget goes to K-12 public schools. This budget increases spending to $72 billion. The state spending has more than doubled in the last year. That is wildly concerning. In 2014, the supplemental budget spending increased by $200 million. And in 2024, the supplemental budget spending increased by $2.2 billion. So I don't know what that signals to you, but that signals to me a lot of irresponsible spending. I do feel like it's irresponsible to get that far out of your budget scope without any plans to pull that back. Who's going to be paying for that, and on whose shoulders will we be providing these new programs? I think this is an issue that we need to be very, very careful about and spend a lot of time looking into. You can go online and you can look at, there's a couple of different websites you can go to, but one is fiscal.wa.gov, and there are so many interactive maps that you can click on that show you all different sorts of spending that the state's doing. I would invite you to take a few minutes at some point to just look into that and really take a deep dive into some programs that you might be interested in. I sit on the JLARC committee, which is the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Committee, and one of our jobs is to come up with some ideas for what to review and what to audit. If you have any ideas or if you have some thoughts for me, I mean, more brains are better than one, right? So I would really encourage you to reach out to me and let me know, and I can submit those questions to the governor for consideration, and we'll look into those programs that you think might be wasteful. All right, so let's talk a little bit about failures. Don't like talking about legislative failures, but there are a lot, unfortunately. So the state is in somewhat of crisis mode, and I will let the other legislators cover a lot of this, but as you can see, I met with Eric Eisinger, our prosecuting attorney for Benton County, and he brought together, I don't know, Eric, was it like 50 stakeholders or something around there? And we spent a day together trying to figure out some of the biggest problems that we're facing in Benton County and how to best support our law enforcement to really make a change for the better. And at the end of the day, one of the things that Eric said really stuck out in my memory, and I haven't forgotten it. He said, well, because the very first thing that I did was on my sticky note, I put fentanyl. Because I think that the first 6 things on this list, public defense, homelessness, mental behavior health, crime, public safety, and the drugs and fentanyl, all of those things have a direct relation to drugs and our drug crisis here in Washington State. We have access right now to fentanyl. It costs you $1 a pill. I mean, $1. I used to think $10 was cheap for a Fenty. Now you can get it for $1. April and I, one of the things that brought us both to tears when we were on the floor was the story of the little girl in Kennewick that didn't survive her fentanyl exposure while her mom and dad were in the bathroom doing drugs. It's so tragic. We have to do something about that. But one of the things Eric said was, what is even a worse crisis than fentanyl is our public defense crisis. We cannot charge people with crimes if there's no one to defend them. They have their Fourth Amendment right to due process, and we can't deny them of that. So we are truly in a crisis of epic proportions. All right, so I'll let others touch on those. I wanted to talk about Senator Binky's successes, because he's been really successful this session, and I'm sad that he's not here to speak on this for himself. But a couple of things that you ought to know is that he's passed 6 bills this last session. That is just a huge amount of work. That's a heavy load for anyone. But Matt has a way of getting it done. So I'll just tell you a few of his successes. He directly attacked the workforce crisis by creating a retail industry work group to identify and recommend 4 colleges to pilot micro-term and short-term credentials for the retail workforce. He also had a bill that facilitates coordination of detention records between juvenile justice and the healthcare authority to provide better care for our youth in juvie. They deserve good health too. He also simplified some funding for the tourism marketing account by removing legislative approval requirements. It's just the less red tape, the better. One of the bills that just touched my heart to the core was the Richard Lenhart bill. He worked closely with Mark Clicker and Representative Dozier on this bill that protects the safety of students and bus drivers by designating trespassing on a school bus as a gross misdemeanor. We all read the paper that day. I have a dear friend that's a Pasco school bus driver. She was terrified to go to work knowing that one of her colleagues was murdered by being stabbed in the process of him protecting the children on the bus. These are public safety issues that are critical, and Matt attacked them head on. It was a pleasure to be a part of that when Miss Lenhart was able to speak about her husband in Pasco, I think it was a week ago, and really give him credit for being a hero in our community, and I hope we can all do the same. He has a lot of other bills here, but I've already taken up too much time. But he is an example to me. He's also he's an example to both April and I in effective leadership and teamwork. His ability to get things done is inspiring and is a testament to the foundational relationships that he's built. And he has an indomitable, did I say that right? Indomitable spirit. And it's infectious. And he has a crazy work ethic. He plans to continue to forward his human services agenda as the ranking member on that committee and build on his incredible momentum from this session. I'll just share a few successes of April's, of Representative Connors. I'm sorry, April. All right, so Representative Connors has really set herself apart as a skilled legislative leader in affordable housing. Her tireless efforts on this front have proven invaluable in the House of Representatives. She passed a bill this year with support from the Department of Natural Resources that will encourage leasees of public lands to build affordable housing units by providing leasehold excise tax exemptions as an incentive when renting or leasing affordable housing units to low and moderate income households. This is a huge step in the right direction for Washington State, so just applaud you for that work. Great work, Representative Connors. She is currently working on 3 rural housing bills, 2 of which she sponsored last session. One is a bill to allow manufactured housing outside the urban growth area, and the second one allows expansion of the UGA where there is infrastructure adjacent to the UGA boundaries. So she's really pushing the limits here. But it needs to be done, and if anyone can do the pushing, it's Rep. Connors. And she's hoping to get those bills across the finish line. She's working directly and collaborating across the aisle with Senator Peterson on these bills. So super excited to see those be a success next session. The third bill, which she co-sponsored, is aimed at allowing accessory dwelling units outside the UGA. And another project she is working on aims to help 16 and 17-year-olds enrolled who have completed programs like those offered at TriTech to find gainful employment before they turn 18. So she has had huge successes in the legislature and will continue to do so next session. My top priority this session was to help secure the $25 million in the state's supplemental capital budget for small modular reactors. The development included extensive engagement and collaboration with the community in an effort that has combined to ensure this funding made it into the capital budget. And now we just need to make sure it stays there. I continue to lead the Legislative Nuclear Energy Caucus as the founder and co-chair. It has played a significant role in the Washington State Legislature's softening towards advanced nuclear reactor technologies. I don't think I have any time left, so I will skip through some of my other successes, but I did drop 2 other nuclear energy project funding bills as a conversation starter, really, just to socialize the idea of continued funding and how to get a feel for what legislators might be open to next session. One was called the GRID Act. It was a $100 million grant program, and the other one was the state loan program for grid-scale clean energy projects. In this interim, I have met with the Department of Commerce and the members of the governor's senior energy policy team and stakeholders to discuss possible options for continued funding for Energy Northwest's SMR project. I'm happy to report that I did have 2 bills passed this last session. One was the Match Act that will provide 4 things. I can remember them without looking at my notes. So it will provide matching dollars for federal funding. It will provide grant dollars for grant writers to help those in greatest need to successfully procure grants at the federal level. It will also include a resource guide at the commerce level to provide information about all sorts of grants that are available at the federal level and the state level as well. If this sounds familiar, it's because I stole this from the chamber. We had a resource guide during COVID for businesses, and it was 109 pages long. And there were so many resources out there. And right now, with the Infrastructure Act and the Inflation Reduction Act and the CHIPS Act, there is money out there for the taking. It might be too little too late, but better late than never. We need to try to procure those dollars from the federal government and get them to Washington State. I did work on a respite bill. I was going to share a personal story about that, but there is no time. I just want to make sure that those with developmental disabilities and those that care for them via the respite care program have what they need to be able to take a break once in a while. Those caregivers spend their entire lives 24/7, 365 as caregivers, and if we can give them 1 hour a week of some self-care, that would be a huge win. I'm just going to close by saying, as we look ahead, let's continue our efforts of success as a community. Let's continue our efforts of success with collaboration. Let's continue our efforts of success with engagement. I'm thrilled to be back home after this legislative session. Thank you for the opportunity to review the success that we've had in session. It's such an honor to represent you in Olympia, but there's nothing like being immersed in daily life at home in the mighty 8th. We truly live in a wonderful part of Washington State. Thank you for all your support. Now let's go get her done.
Thank you, Representative Barnard. So it's now my honor to introduce Senator Mark Schoesler. Senator Schoesler represents the 9th Legislative District, which spans part or all of Adams, Asotin, Columbia, Franklin, Garfield, Lincoln, Spokane, and Whitman counties. Mark was elected to the House of Representatives in 1992 and served for 12 years. He was elected to the Washington State Senate in 2004 and served 8 years as the Senate Republican leader in the Senate Republican Caucus. The senator serves on 2 Senate committees, Labor and Commerce and Ways and Means. Senator Schoesler is a 5th-generation dryland wheat farmer in Ritzville, the seat of Adams County, on land his family has been farming since the 1880s. He and his wife Ginger are proud parents of 2 married children, Veronica and Cody, as well as grandparents to a grandson and 2 granddaughters. Please help me welcome Senator Mark Schoesler to the stage.
just one little correction. Due to this judicial misconduct, I don't get to represent Franklin County anymore. I had a great career, I think 22 years representing major parts of Franklin County, and it wasn't by my choice, it was by a misguided judge that I don't anymore. In the name of brevity, which I believe is the key to political success, you younger members take note of that, that I won't go into the accomplishments of my House members. They're strong legislators in their own right, but take time to visit with them. Joe and Mary have their areas that they are very, very strong in. I take a more generalized view to the session in that the good is relatively short. 3 initiatives from the people came, we passed them. Parents' rights and education, police pursuit, and a ban on state and local income taxes, even though we already have one known as capital gains. Those were an important part of the session. I'm glad we did. I was at an event in Spokane a few weeks ago, and Senator Padden, who started in the House in 1980, took a break, came back. And Senator Padden, they asked a question: what was the best piece of legislation that came out of the legislature this year? He said the ESOP bill. Not a bad piece of public policy. It's good for employees, good for employers transitioning out. How many of you are going to use an ESOP? I was a co-sponsor, but you're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel for good business issues when you talk about that. So you talk about what didn't happen. The rent control bill always found a death in the Senate, and I hope it continues to. The rent control is only the tip of the iceberg. It's the other bad things that are tucked inside it. Capping a pet deposit. If you've ever had a tenant in a house with a pet that was not perfect, it's way too low, folks. I can promise you, I've been there. The property tax increase, clearly not a good idea at a time when people talk about their property taxes. And the overall operating budget. We look at what it was in 2017, the last year I was majority leader. 55% of the budget went to K-12. About 45% went to the rest of the budget. In 2024, they've completely switched. Is it because we cut K-12? No, we've increased it. The rest of government grew excessively fast, not K-12. Some would lead you to believe that, but that's just not the way it is. You look at how the budget was constructed. A supplemental budget is supposed to be that. Supplemental, take out the peaks and valleys and go home. It has evolved into gimme mo, gimme mo, gimme mo, and give, give, give. And at some point, the taxpayer has to say enough. At some point, and they may not say it in Olympia, they may take it out on a local levy, local option, because that's the only choice they have. But you look at the positive side, I mean, a budget that spends $50 million for non-citizens' health care, when we have people telling us they need help with their health care, with their clinics, their hospitals, not a real good priority. So we get to transportation, and folks, there's not a whole lot of money out there because the cap and tax money goes to things that you'll never see here. But there's just enough to make it worthwhile. For example, we really needed the Connell interchange completed because it brings ag products from Adams, Franklin, and Grant counties to the main line. We finally got that over the hump and got it done. We also are working on water issues in the Odessa groundwater replacement areas, Adams, Franklin, and Grant counties. The good news is the first pipeline is completed. The good news is the next pipeline in Franklin County will actually be gravity fed rather than pumping. But if we don't keep the flow going, we jeopardized the South District, where we're sitting right now. Fortunately, we had a lot of help from wheat growers, the Potato Commission, and Commissioner Blankenship from Adams County to get some matching money for the bridges, which create the necks in the pipe that potentially threaten the expansion of that and our neighbors in the South District, which we would never want to do. So that was a quasi-transportation project that we did keep everything moving forward on. The capital budget over the last 4 years has become my primary interest in the legislature, and I've found that I rather like it. There used to be a tradition of one body introduced the budget first, then the other one did, and for some reason the other body chose to defer to us now twice, I think. So it's a little bit different. When you lead with your budget, you have to put the best of everything out there. So when we put our budget out there, skill centers in Wenatchee and the Tri-Cities, a rigorous K-12 school construction plan, small school factors, behavioral health. We didn't quite finish off the behavioral health money last biennium, so we finished it off. Another example. We took care of higher ed, I think, really pretty well. We did water. We responded to wildfires in Spokane County that we don't want to see any community suffer through. So we had a pretty good budget. We had to work really hard to keep those priorities with the House leadership that didn't see it quite the same way we did. So we got that through, but people ask, Mark, why are you so excited about K-12 school construction money, small school repair grants? You've never been that education guy. I'll tell you why. It's the only property tax relief you're going to get. Because if we buy down the cost of that next school construction project, the bond is a whole lot smaller. That's the only property tax relief you're going to see, is if we can hold those, continue to hold those levels down and do the small school factors that are very important. We met basically in the middle with the House. We raised it from $5 or $6 million to a $12 million lid, and districts up to 3,000. So we're up to some fairly good-sized school districts and their taxpayers getting some relief. And I will say, when you're talking about school construction, you've been sold a bill of goods on some of the things that happen in Olympia. The capital gains income tax, for example, being called an excise tax, doesn't really pass the smell test for us. But the formula says a certain amount goes to K-12, early learning and things that are all warm and good. The remainder goes into school construction. Well, first of all, those of you in local government, there's no non-surplant language. So that frees up more money to go into other things government wants to do. And the real shocker came to me. Senator Millett and I worked together, as well as any two people from different parties in my career. We present our budget, and boy, it's a happy day in capital budget, until K-12 came. They said, please do not fund school construction projects with capital gains income tax money because it's too volatile. Well, isn't that what we told people when they tried passing it? It's volatile. So we've now seen collections are dropping off. And we made a concerted effort. We went along with it, and we erred to caution on all money that could be affected in the next budget cycle. For example, the income tax money, the initiative passes in November, and you don't have to think real hard where I stand on that issue, none will be collected. So therefore, you better not budget anything in the last 6 months of the biennium from that, and we didn't. So with that said, limited number of good, several not so good. I think the next thing you have to consider are the 3 initiatives in the fall. Think about how your local legislators voted on them. think what they do or do not do for your area and vote. Please vote. So thank you very much for allowing me to be here. I don't know with redistricting if I'll get invited back or if what I say gets me invited back. So again, thank you all.
Thank you, Senator Schoesler. It's now my pleasure to introduce Senator Nikki Torres. Senator Torres serves Washington's 15th legislative district, which includes portions of Adams, Benton, Franklin, Grant, and Yakima counties. Elected to the state Senate in 2022, Nikki is a longtime community leader dedicated to the progress of agriculture, economic development, education, and leading-edge technologies under development at Hanford, and the advancement of the diverse communities and populations of the Yakima Valley and the Greater Tri-Cities area. Nikki attended Pasco High School and earned undergraduate and master's degrees in business administration from the University of Phoenix. She is a strategic partnership manager for Western Governors University. Senator Torres is a former president of the Tri-Cities Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and served as a member of the Pasco City Council. Other prior community involvements include service on the Washington Child Care Collaborative Task Force and the Kennewick Police Department Foundation, and board positions for Tri-City Community Health and Visit Tri-Cities. Nikki has 2 daughters and is grandmother to 3. So please help me in welcoming Senator Nikki Torres.
I gotta lower this a little bit. Amy's a lot taller than me. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Lori and Regional Chamber, for inviting us all here today. And also, thank you to Energy Northwest for sponsoring this luncheon. It is a pleasure to address you today and have an opportunity to share with you my take on the highlights and key outcomes of the 2024 legislative session. This session was my second session in Olympia, and it proved to be an eventful, yet generally successful session for our state. And I say that nicely because I'm talking about my projects for the 15th, but they also include a little bit of Tri-Cities as well. I also want to thank my colleagues that are here, especially the ones here today. They have provided tremendous support and made it fun. I said fun, I said the F word, to be in Olympia. On some pretty long days on the floor, they definitely made it fun. I will miss my colleagues that are not returning next year. I've learned so much from them. Senator Linda Wilson, Senator Ann Rivers, Senator Mike Patton, and my seatmate, Representative Bruce Chandler, who has served, more than 15 years in the House of Representatives. He will truly be missed. They are true public servants. In the Senate, I serve on 3 committees and several legislative task forces. So the first one is Local Government with Tribal Affairs, Law and Justice Committee, and the Ways and Means Committee. For task force, I serve on the MMIWP, which is the Missing Murdered Indigenous Women and People Task Force, the Tribal Opioid Task Force, which I was just voluntold to, and also a child care one. I don't even know the actual name for it because I was just told about it this week. And also the Civic Health Committee, because boy, do we need it. So let's talk a little bit about our business environment. I know Representative Barnard did a great job touching on it as well. One lens I view state government is through its impact on business and job creation in our state and region. I believe helping businesses grow and flourish by creating a positive tax and regulatory environment is a fundamental role for the state legislature. However, I know you will be shocked to learn this, but not everyone in Olympia shares that view. While we are blessed with an abundance of clean, renewable power, there are those in Olympia who want to breach our dams, adding expensive environmental and regulatory costs to the already high cost of fuel, and impose new taxes, despite Olympia already reaping record amounts of revenue. And while we have heard words of support for nuclear power and advanced modular reactor technology, it will be important to make sure that any promises made are also promises kept. And by the way, I don't want to forget to mention Representative Connors. She had a really cool bill on the windmills last year, the first session, so kudos to you on that one. It's only fair to warn you as you listen to us lawmakers describe what we face in Olympia. You may not like all that you hear, but don't fear, there was some good news out of the Capitol this year, such as initiatives and citizen participation, as mentioned by my colleague, Senator Schoesler. This year, the voices of our citizens were heard loud and clear. Frustrated by the burdensome policies enacted in recent years, Washingtonians collected over 2.6 million signatures to put 6 initiatives before the legislature. Each initiative garnered more than 400,000 signatures. Thanks to the immense pressure from our citizens, we saw public hearings on 3 of the initiatives. Following spirited debates, and I mean spirited, in both the House and the Senate, we passed I-2081, ensuring parents' notification in K through 12, I-2111, banning a personal income tax, and I-2113, restoring the standard for vehicle pursuit to reasonable suspicion. I proudly voted for each of these initiatives, emphasizing the need to trust our police officers and restore safety standards in vehicular pursuits. Protecting employers and consumers from the new economy-damaging taxes and restoring public safety are both crucial to our community and our business community. This session, we also successfully blocked several harmful bills that could have negatively impacted our state. A bill that would have removed the cap on property taxes, legislation forcing taxpayers to subsidize the incomes of striking workers. As you know, unemployment insurance, which is 100% employer paid, is intended to replace wages for workers who have lost their job through no fault of their own. A strike is not that. Extreme pro-criminal bills that would have allowed incarcerated felons to run for office and serve on juries, and even permitted convicted sex offenders to serve on the Sex Offender Policy Board. This bill was also known as the Gary Ridgway Voting Rights Act. If you don't believe me, look it up. It's House Bill 2030. I repeat, House Bill 2030. And my colleagues in the House did a wonderful job making sure that that did not make it out of the House to the Senate. So on a positive side, we managed to pass significant legislation and a more reasonable budget, although as you heard, it was a little heftier than usual. It's doubled, definitely. As a member of the Senate Ways and Means Committee, I am pleased with the supplemental budget, which addresses many pressing concerns, especially around public safety. Public safety remains a top priority, especially for the 15th District. Despite, well, the way it is right now, actually, the 15th District as it is drawn right now. Despite minor changes in 2023, the restrictions on law enforcement from the 2021 laws have led to a surge in crimes, which we have all seen and heard about. Washington has seen increases in violent crimes, auto thefts, and retail thefts, with alarming statistics to back this up. We need to restore trust in our police and ensure they have the tools necessary to protect our communities. For the supplemental operating budget, the final supplemental budget added $2.14 billion to the base of the 23-25 budget, bringing the total to, as Senator Schoesler mentioned earlier, $71.9 billion, or around there. While this is significantly more than I would have preferred, it is a reasonable update that addresses several key issues, such as additional correctional officer training, auto theft prevention task forces, support for crime victims and witness assistant accounts, combating impaired driving, and bolstering access to public defense through Senate Bill 5780, which I prime-sponsored. However, I am disappointed that the budget fails to fully reimburse our agricultural industry for fuel surcharges tied to the Climate Commitment Act. We still need to work on that, and that remains a huge issue that my colleagues and I will fight for in the next session. As far as capital budget success, the $1.3 billion supplemental capital budget for 23-25 was another highlight, especially for the 15th. Let me see, well, do you guys know which part the 15th covers? I should have mentioned that. It's Yakima, majority Yakima County, second is Franklin, Adams, Grant, and a small portion of Benton, which Energy Northwest actually is in the 15th. So there was 25 million that was allocated that we all advocated for Energy Northwest, and 10.3 million for ringhold hatchery replacement ponds, 1 million for public safety improvements in Adams County, 75,000 for the aquatic center at Martin Luther King Jr. Park in Yakima, 800,000 for the Boys and Girls Club in Pasco, and also advocated for the 3 million for HVAC at Hapo Center. So thank you, Senator Schoesler, for really working hard on making sure that made it in the Senate side of the capital budget. As far as the transportation budget, I don't have a lot of wins on that at all. It's a $14.6 billion budget with $1 billion in overruns, which we will have to find revenue for in the 25-26 session. I was able to get a very small sign on Highway 240, though, near the new roundabout, to announce LIGO Observatory. Sure, you've heard of that cool place. Definitely visit it, because we want to make sure those signs stay up. At first, they didn't want to put those up because they said, well, it's not open every Saturday. But does it need to be? We've given them funding. We should have a sign out there. So finally got that put up about a month and a half ago. So when you drive on 240, keep an eye out for it. As far as my legislation, I was able to pass a number of pieces of important bills. First is a very important one for me. It was Bill 5647, Senate Bill 5647. It's to help our kids and school personnel with protection. So our temporary school to district employees are included in emergency planning and training, receiving unanimous support in both the House and the Senate. Senate Bill 5925, increasing, allowing per diem days for fire commissioners. As our fire season gets longer, it seems like, our fire commissioners are called out more. Senate Bill 5885, streamlining administrative processes for territory annexation, is just a good government efficiency bill. So once there's an annexation that takes place, it is all electronic. Imagine that. To address the understaffing crisis in public defense and prosecution, as I mentioned earlier, Senate Bill 5780 creates an internship and training program for law students and current professionals. This is a small but significant step towards solving this critical issue. I do want to recognize Franklin County Administrator Mike Gonzalez for alerting me to this urgent matter, and to our Yakima County Commissioners as well for helping out. We got it passed in a very, very short session. So looking ahead to next session as we prepare, we will continue to work on key issues such as public safety, supporting our agricultural industry, and ensuring the effective use of taxpayer dollars, and to make sure that our business community feels heard and supported. A strong business community is crucial to supporting the needs of Washington families, and state government should be a partner in creating a positive environment and for business and job creation rather than creating barriers. In particular, I will be taking on the issue of affordable childcare. According to a Cairo report that I heard earlier, in Washington, the average monthly price of full-time childcare is more than $1,044 per child. Much of that is due to inflation. Providers say they pay more for everything from rent and utilities to snacks and supplies. And that's a lot. In some areas of our state, the problem is so bad that the regions are being referred to as childcare deserts. And as a former young single mom and a current grandmother of 3, trust me when I tell you that affordable childcare is a necessity for survival for many. Affordable and accessible childcare is also critical for employers to find and retain quality workers they need. Not all industries are open from 9 to 5. So I'll be working with several of my colleagues over the interim to come up with some practical solutions, so stay tuned. In the meantime, my office remains ready to assist you. I encourage you to reach out with any concerns or questions about state government. And if you have ideas for smarter, more effective, and efficient government, please do reach out. It's a sincere honor and pleasure to serve as one of your state senators. As you see, there's several of us here in the room. And also as the first Latina state senator in Central and Eastern Washington. So thank you all for being here today and for all of your support, and the Tri-City Regional Chamber as well, and Energy Northwest again for sponsoring the luncheon. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing from you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Senator Torres. So finally, it's my pleasure to introduce Senator Perry Dozier. Senator Dozier serves the 16th Legislative District, where he was born and raised. The 16th Legislative District spans southeast Washington, including Prosser and Walla Walla. Senator Dozier is a wheat farmer from Waitsburg. He has owned and managed irrigated and dryland farming operations in Walla Walla and Columbia counties for more than 35 years. He graduated from Prescott High School and earned a BA in economics from Whitman College. Excuse me. Before coming to the legislature, Perry was a Walla Walla County Commissioner from 2009 to 2016 and served on numerous boards and commissions, including the Walla Walla Watershed Partnership and the Snake River Salmon Recovery Board. He later was interim manager of the Walla Walla Fair and Frontier Days organization. Senator Dozier's spare time passion is flying, and he has been a licensed commercial pilot for more than 35 years. He and his wife, Darlene, have two grown sons, Logan and Kyle, so please help me welcome Senator Perry Dozier.
Well, I got to tell you, right now I'm batting cleanup here for the three in front of me, and usually that's the guy that's going to hit the ball out of the ballpark, right? However, I think that my three colleagues there did a really, really good job. So my sheet of paper that I was looking at that I was going to talk off of has become very small. And we're going to try to hit on a few things that my colleagues also did not touch on. Some of the most important things I think this past year within this legislative session that we had was, again, for me, being my fourth year in session, was the first 2 years everything was remote. And because of that, we never really built camaraderie and friendships with even our own local elected officials, and also especially those across the aisle. It was real difficult, just like I can understand our children for the last 2-3 years of trying to learn. Well, I had to learn a whole new way to be a legislator. And this past year was a lot more rewarding in seeing a lot of you folks come into my office and be able to express the issues that you have and me be able to work on them a lot harder. One of the things that was touched on that I think was so important this year that came through were the 6 initiatives. It's because in those 2 years of COVID, there were a lot of bad bills that were passed. And then finally, we were able to get those basically resurrected by the people saying, we do not want this. And through that process, 6 initiatives came forward. And the 3 that were passed in the legislature this year still can be addressed this next legislative session. The parental choice bill or initiative is one that I had worked on for 3 years as I had sponsored a parental rights bill, trying to do the same thing that this initiative does. What I've seen, I'm on early learning K-12. I've been on early learning K-12 for 4 years. And what I've seen is more and more we are taking the parents away from the children and not letting the parents be involved. This is going to be a very, very important initiative that we voted on that hopefully won't be touched, even though I understand that potentially ACLU now has entered into, I think it's a lawsuit or something on that bill. As was spoken, the income tax, that was basically a slam dunk, that it wasn't going to get through. And I think police pursuits was something that was absolutely necessary for us to have. Of the 3 initiatives that are left that we get to vote on, that you folks get to vote on this coming November, they have a lot of significance for us. The Cap and Tax or Climate Commitment Act is the one that's made us the 3rd highest gas cost in the nation. And not only is it the price of fuel, it's the price of actually the commodities that we buy. And it continues to hurt really badly with our with a lot of our workers. As I come over here to the Tri-Cities quite often, I think about our farm workers, and I see them out there driving their vehicles. We have been hit so hard in the agricultural industry the last few years, be it the cap and tax that's raised the cost of fuel, be it the 40-hour work week, where some of these individuals aren't getting to get more than 40 hours a week. All of these things are putting a strain on southeast Washington here and across this state. One of the things that I look at that is so important here in our region is agriculture. We've talked about the dams and the removal of the dams. As you heard, I graduated from Prescott High School. When Ice Harbor Dam was built, completed in 1962, I was 4 years old. I saw the transformation of western Walla Walla County and southeast Franklin County into some of the most highly productive farm ground that we have. Ground that would never probably raise anything is now making southeast Washington very, very profitable in this state, because that is revenue that goes to the state. The removal of those dams will put a tremendous burden not only on irrigation, but transportation. Transportation is one of the hardest things that we have to fund. We can't keep up with it right now. And we cannot put more vehicles on the road. You cannot replace irrigation either. You cannot replace the energy production at this point right now either. But yet, there continues to be funding put in the budget every single year for studies on the removal of the Snake River dams. Every year. One of the things I also want to share with you is there is another initiative. I don't know if you've heard about it. I believe it's Initiative 2066. And this is going to be coming out, or it might be out right now. There was a bill that was passed this year, House Bill 1589. It was called the Clean Energy Act. We called it the PSE bill. The PSE bill, what it's doing is, PSE is Puget Sound Energy. They serve 1.1 million electrical customers on the Puget Sound area. They also have 900,000 natural gas customers. Of those, 800,000 are residential. Of the energy plants that they operate, over 50% of their energy plants are fossil fuel driven, being natural gas and coal fired. The Climate Commitment Act has put a tax on emissions, carbon dioxide emissions. Puget Sound Energy is having to buy those carbon credits. Those carbon credits got as high as $63 per metric ton above 250 metric tons per year. To give you an example, Washington State University, I believe, spent nearly $20 million buying carbon credits. That's taxpayer dollars buying carbon credits. So Puget Sound Energy is buying these. What this bill is going to do is let Puget Sound Energy slowly wean their customers off of natural gas. The cost of converting your home, your business, to electricity is 100% on the taxpayer's shoulders. Now, this is only happening over here in Western Washington right now. But depending on where we go with this Climate Commitment Act, this cap and tax on this initiative, we may be looking at a drive throughout the entire state too, of basically taking natural gas away, which is very, very important for us to have. Once touted as a clean energy that we could use. That one, like I say, is 2066. Keep that in mind. I believe all the signatures have to be in by July 1st. If you start seeing it, be sure and sign. My big sheet just got smaller. Senator Schoesler touched briefly on the capital gains tax. And the funding for it, I think we're going to be facing, is going to be issues this next legislative session. They fell far short of what their projections were. Originally, I think the projection was for bringing in $500 million a year. The first year of the tax, I believe we brought in over $800 million into the state. This year, I believe we're about 140 million shy of what that target is, meaning that the funding that's supposed to be coming in from capital gains now is going to be a shortfall for funding projects that have been earmarked. We're going to have some issues there. One of the big things that also has happened, as I said, I'm on early learning K-12, that we've seen is a lot of learning loss from the first 2 years or so of COVID. We have to try to make up how to get these kids caught up. we're failing our school systems right now. They are behind. We have some of the lowest test scores ever from these students. We've tried to push through legislation that would use excess federal funds to hire tutors. We couldn't get that through. I've got a meeting this afternoon actually with one of our county treasurers who wants to talk to me about school funding. And as you've read in the paper, we have a lot of school districts that are in very, very dire straits with their funding shortfalls. We're going to have to look at what we're going to do there. As Senator Schoesler noted, we used to have 55% of the operating budget went to schools. Now it's dropped 10% down to 45%. We are still running short on funding our schools, and this is what we need to do to move forward. We've had the opportunity, though, to increase funding for special education, which I think is very fortunate. We've also been able to increase funding for counselors in schools, which is also very important. So I think we're making slow steps in the right direction. As for maybe some positives, most all the positives were taken away, but I keep looking over here at Mayor Gary and saying, sir, we did get you enough money to finish SR 224 Red Mountain this year. So we did have one good thing on transportation. When the folks from West Richland came to my office, I thought they were telling me that we were going to have a ribbon cutting to open it up, and it was more of a discussion that well, we could use a few more dollars here and there. And so that was a real positive aspect there. As for the 16th district, I'll tell you what, it's a whole new ball game for me. With redistricting right now, I will be able to say that when I'm reelected, I will have been able to represent every square inch of Benton County and Franklin County by the time we finish this. I've been in office 4 years, and this is the third redistricting that I've got, and I'm trying to blow the map up to see exactly where I am. And I'm sorry, Senator Schoesler, but you keep getting pushed north, but we're still going to let you be part of the ball game here as long as you're on capital budget. So yeah, just remember, if you really need something, you talk to us first, but that man right there is who you call. What's your phone number? So I think we've got a lot of work coming up this next legislative session. The budget has grown significantly since Governor Inslee was elected. It was a $31 million budget when he was operating budget when he was elected. We're up over $70 million right now. We don't have an issue with raising money. We have an issue with spending money, and we just need the right people in the right places to move that forward. So I wish I had my full sheet. Thank you very much for Representative Barnard and Senator Torres and Senator Schoesler for covering most of my information. And next time I hope to maybe be leadoff hitter and could talk to you a little bit more. And thank you very much for the chamber. This is always a great opportunity to come in and speak with you folks. Thank you so much.